This episode of the Cascadian Beer Podcast has been made possible by the BC Ale Trail. Arrive thirsty, leave inspired. What if all your favorite breweries were on the same street? Well, that's what we're going to look at today in part 2 of our series on Port Moody. Welcome to the Cascadian Beer Podcast. My name's Aaron and I'm a Cascadian. I don't consider myself an expert in beer by any means, but I do enjoy and respect the craft and the passion of these brewmasters. I want to learn from these pioneers on what sets them apart from the rest and why they choose to call Cascadia their home. Cascadia is a bioregion in the Pacific Northwest on the North American continent. It is made up of the U.S. states of Washington and Oregon, as well as the Canadian province of British Columbia. In this podcast series, I profile the unique breweries of Cascadia, a region that has a strong presence on the international beer scene. If this is your first time here, hopefully you've hit that subscribe button, and if you want to follow us on social media, you can. We're at facebook.com/Cascadian Beer, on Twitter at Cascadian Beer, and you can always find more information at cascadian.beer. So today, this is the second part looking at Murray Street in Port Moody, BC. This is a unique area in the Lower Mainland where there are 4 breweries situated on the same street, which has earned the nickname Brewers Row. The final 2 breweries we're focusing on this episode are Parkside Brewing and Twin Sails. If you've missed part 1, you can check that out at cascadian.beer, episode number 31. All right, first up, Twin Sails. They started making different styles of beer, but they've become known for their really juicy IPAs. I sat down with one of the owners.
My name's Cody.
And what's your role here?
I am one of the owners of Twin Sails Brewing. Not a lot of people know this, but Twin Sails Brewing is actually named Twin Sails because it's me and my twin brother that own it. So,
wow.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's just me because I'm the only one that's actually full-time working here. But my brother, he's more back behind the scenes kind of thing. But yeah, he's my business partner. So
where does the sail come from then?
I mean, it has a lot to do with a few things. I mean, I do sail a little bit. I used to sail at Jericho over in Vancouver there. My dad used to race sailing boats, and, you know, we're right by the water over here in England, or Broad Inlet, so it just kind of made sense.
Mm-hmm. Is there a sailboat parked somewhere in the brewery?
Unfortunately, not yet.
Okay.
We're hoping next year we can buy one, though.
So in terms of the pecking order here on Brewers Row, which number are you to open?
We were number 3. So we were essentially opening while Moody Ales was still under construction. So they opened about probably 2 months after we got the space here. So yeah, we're about a year behind Moody Ales and about a year and a half behind, 2.5 years, something like that, behind Yellow Dog. So.
And you said you were growing up like sailing in Jericho. What brought you to Port Moody to open a brewery?
We grew up in Maple Ridge, so not far from here. It's a couple towns over. And we grew up there. We actually moved to California with my dad about 16, 17 years ago. He's still living down there, and me and my brother both moved back up. I actually lived in Port Moody here for a good almost a year and a half, 2 years when I was about 19 when I moved back up here. I eventually, migrated down to Vancouver, but my brother, he still lives in the area. He actually lives just across the bay over on Ioko Road, which is a pretty popular area for a lot of the community here. So,
yeah. So how did beer find you?
Beer found my brother, and then my brother found me. My brother was a home brewer for a while. Him and his friends from work were doing it for a little while, and it was just a hobby to start off with. And then they talked about the idea of possibly opening a brewery. It was kind of crap. Beer was just getting big. The big guys like P49 and 33 Acres and Strange Fellows were all kind of like coming to fruition. It was like, cool, let's try to be a part of this thing. It's pretty fun. So he contacted me because I was working in bars in Vancouver for a while, and I had a lot of contacts with like pub accounts and restaurants and stuff like that. So, we kind of always looked at me being the guy on the sales side of things, and then he was going to take care of the production and brewing aspect of it. And we entered his beer into a couple competitions, and he was able to place like second and fifth, and like did pretty well in like some pretty big homebrew competitions. So we actually thought we had a chance at doing all right at this thing. So we'd always wanted to work together throughout our childhood. For a long time we wanted to open a restaurant together. He's always been back of house, loves the kitchen kind of thing, and then I've always done bartending and front of house management. So that was always the goal. But then he got into homebrewing, and we just thought, that sounds a lot more fun. So
were you setting up here completely aware that there was a brewery that was already here and there was another one that was about to open up?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we looked at a bunch of areas before we settled here. I mean, we looked at a bunch of locations in Vancouver. We looked at a couple locations in Maple Ridge. We ended up getting a call about this location, and we had known that Yellow Dog existed already, and they had awesome beer. I mean, from day one, they were one of our favorite breweries. So we thought it was really cool that we can get a space here. And then we found out the Moody Ales was opening down the street. And we're like, a lot of people have asked me, like, did you not think it was going to be oversaturated? In my mind, I thought as a strategy, especially knowing that the SkyTrain was coming in, that it'd be a destination. So that was definitely on our business plan from day one, was be able to take advantage of the SkyTrain access to Vancouver and Richmond and Surrey and everywhere, and kind of use that density of breweries. We had no intention our idea the fourth one's going to come in, but the three of us alone, it's worth a trip out, right? So,
right. But you guys opened making different styles of beers to what you do now, right?
Oh, big time. Yeah. I mean, like everybody, palates change. And when we first opened up, the styles of beer that Clay and myself liked were more European style beers, a lot of Belgian stuff and German and all that. I mean, we really had kind of experienced the whole New England IPA style a beer that we produce a lot of now. It was something that we kind of got, I guess, introduced to through our brewers, Dave and Ryan, who are big into the craft beer scene down in America. And this is the style that was being popular down there and kind of growing in popularity across the country. And we managed to get our hands on a few cans of their stuff, and it was unreal. And we knew that nobody was really doing that style in Vancouver right now. So we decided to start a crack at it. About a year ago, actually last weekend, we released our first New England style IPA. And after that, we just saw how well people received it, and we slowly started transitioning to like bring a bit more of that style, and now it's pretty much just all we do. So like really juicy kind of beers and that haziness. A lot more focusing on flavor and aroma than like bitterness, which a lot of West Coast style IPAs are more known for. So.
With that, one thing that stands out for me with you guys is your packaging, because you're in cans, and I just love the design on it. How did you come up with that concept?
The funny thing is actually a lot of people contact us asking who does their design work and blah, blah, blah. It's actually me and one of my brewers are the main guys that do it. And I just got sick of dealing with graphic designers because it's so hard to kind of put your vision on paper through their mind. So I just spent like a month learning how to use Illustrator and Photoshop, and I do my labels myself now.
Right.
So, I mean, the branding just came because we designed ourselves, and we wanted something simplistic and different from what the market looks like right now. And we came up with the white can stuff, and people loved it. And then we just started recently this year doing a lot of our one-off series. So it's all in like sticker labels, like, a lot of tin showing. And for those, we just have fun. It's like, we're never going to put this beer out again. We just have a good time, like make weird labels and like as long as it makes ourselves laugh, we love it. So,
and does what comes first? Does the name of the beer come first, or does the design come first?
Honestly,
some of these?
Well, we have like a bank of about 15 or 20 names that have no association with beer upstairs. They're just like ready to go on a beer. So we'll come up with a beer and find the name that we think suits it best. And if we don't have one, we'll come up with something else. So yeah, it's kind of all over the map. Sometimes we're just like, oh man, I thought of an awesome name. And then we think of a beer after that, or we think of an awesome beer. And then we're like, okay, we got an awesome name for it here. So
what's one of your favorite names?
So far, Space Armadillo. I mean, it's one of those beers we've only got a chance to make it one time, but people love it. They've been nuts for it. But I mean, it's so simplistic. Like, it's Amarillo hops with Galaxy hops. Like Space Armadillo. Like, it just makes sense, right? So we got a couple versions of that we really want to put out sometime next year. The only issue is right now we just can't get the Galaxy hops for it. So we have a contract for next year. So we'll definitely be making a few versions of that one next year. So I'm stoked about that.
Cool. So when you and your brother were thinking about this, how long was it from the initial concept to opening your door?
We put pen to paper I'd say about 8 months before we found a location. And then we opened up about a year after that, a year and 2 weeks after that. So, I mean, we got the location before we even had the financing. That was the craziest thing, was Clay and I signed a lease for this place with $10,000 in our pocket. We had enough money for for 2 months rent and no money. So it definitely lit a fire in our ass. Like I remember that night before we removed subjects, we were on the phone just like, should we do it? Should we do it? Should we do it? And it's like, this location's amazing. We're not going to find something better than this. It's like, if we don't take this, it could be a year before we find something that's good. So we just signed the documents and, crossed our fingers, and we were able to get the financing, within about 3 months. And yeah, then it was go time. Like starting in about February, we took the space in October, and in February we started construction, and it was about 8 months after that when we opened. So
right, and so then like parts of the brew house, is it all brand new gear? Did you salvage it from?
We got everything brand new. Yeah, I mean we went to China for the brew house. I mean that was just at the time the dollar was all right, and the Chinese equipment just. Price wise, it was, a couple $100,000 less than the next best quote that we got from the local suppliers. But at the end of the day, I mean, we've spent almost $200,000 replacing stuff already. So in hindsight, it probably wasn't the best decision. I mean, we've added a couple tanks to the family since then, and they've all been locally made, and we'll probably continue doing that going forward. Just makes more sense.
And then do you have a canning line?
No, not yet. We use West Coast Canning. They're awesome guys, and they allow breweries like us to get into that can market, well ahead of time than we normally would have. So it's nice. I mean, you can take somebody our size and we don't have to spend $150,000 to buy a canning line. We can can with them and continue to put it out in the market. And yeah, it works great. I mean, we have hopes to buy a canning line eventually, but it's expensive, and a lot of things can be bought with that money, like more tanks. So yeah.
Or replacement parts. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or replacing pumps.
Yeah. So what's the size of the brew house then?
We get about a 2,000 liter yield out of each brew. So it's the brew house itself is about 24x, and we yield about 2,000 liters in each tank. So two 20-hect tanks, 3 40-hect tanks, 2 60-hect tanks, and we just ordered 2 more 60-hect tanks. So yeah, we should be expanding again sometime in the next 4 months or so.
Has there been anything that you were just caught completely off guard with when you were trying to open?
Oh, all the time.
That you wish you knew beforehand?
This is one of the craziest stories. When we got the Chinese equipment, we were supposed to have one of the engineers from the company we purchased off fly out here and help us put it together. His visa got denied.
Oh.
And the only other engineer with the company was in Switzerland at the time, installing one of their other brew houses. So we had all this equipment that had like Chinese writing on it, and we had no idea what to do with it. So I had to actually go in the phone book and find a English Chinese translator, and she came down and spent 2 days with us translating every single piece of every single sticker that was on all the pieces of equipment, all the piping, everything. Like, she essentially told us what everything was, and we had to like put this jigsaw puzzle together ourselves afterwards. It was like, imagine doing a puzzle without the front cover. Right. Like, I have no idea what this thing's supposed to look like, but here are the pieces.
And then, did you get one of those punch labels to like rename everything?
Oh yeah, okay. We literally like just tape underneath the sticker that they put on and written on. We put tape underneath and wrote in English what it was. It was a pretty crazy journey. It took us about 3-4 weeks to put everything together, but yeah, we managed to do it. But it was definitely interesting for sure.
Did the engineer finally turn up and go, "Oh, good job"?
No, they never came.
All right.
I mean, whatever. It's the risky take going with place like China for making equipment, right? Yeah. They don't really care. Once you get the gear, it's like, all right, it's yours, whatever. I don't care what happens after this, so.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it worked out well. The brew house has actually stood up pretty well for us. I mean, we had no leaks with any of our stainless, which is awesome. And the brew house, like I said, we've replaced some parts, but I mean, aside from that, it's worked pretty well for us. So.
Right. So you opened your doors. Were you just bum rushed like right from day one, or did it take a little while to get some people in?
Well, the funny thing was, we actually got our approval for occupancy about a week before we expected to. So we had just finished hiring our taste room staff. Like, we had no plans for opening that week, and then we got the occupancy permits on the Friday, and we're like, should we open tomorrow? I'm like, why not, right? So we had a big staff meeting, and we're like, hey guys, like, is anybody able to work tomorrow? We got our occupancy soon. everybody's like, yeah, let's do it. So we did like a really quick training session, and like we were still like putting the bar top onto the bar like 15 minutes before we opened. Like it was like, just go. We had a couple of staff come in and just help us finish off the tasting room. And then we didn't say anything. We didn't post anything on social media. We just opened the doors and put the open sign on and just figured we'll see what happens. And within an hour, people caught wind that we were open, and we had a line up to the door for about 6 hours straight. Like, it was pretty crazy. Yeah, we were like just jammed in there, and yeah, it was fun. I had my dad out. He was up from California, and my sister was over from the Sunshine Coast, and we were all just kind of like standing there and all like, what the hell is this? Like, this is nuts. So yeah, it was a pretty cool feeling. But yeah, I mean, from there, like, it was fortunate, like I'd mentioned, that I had some connections in Vancouver for some pub accounts, and a lot of local bars around town were really generous in supporting us as well. And yeah, we were able to get our stuff into some pubs really quickly, and which is awesome. But yeah, it's definitely been like I'd say the last 6 months that it's really kicked up for us. You know, the first year was great, and we learned a lot. Year 2 has been pretty nuts though. Yeah, for sure.
Do you think you'd have the same level of success if you opened elsewhere in the Lower Mainland?
I don't know. I mean, it's a tough question. I mean, we've been very beneficial with this location, that there's a lot of community support, and, you know, like, this is the thing to do now in town, right? Like, you're going out on a Friday, let's go hit up Brewers Row. There's lots to do, especially with the farmers market that's going on the weekends now. And, you know, there's always events going on in the park across the street. We just had Rib Fest a couple weeks ago, and Golden
SkyTrain's open. It makes it easy now. So yeah.
SkyTrain makes it able. You're able to come down and drink and not have to worry about getting home, you know? Yeah. So yeah, it's great. I mean, this area has really been beneficial to help us with the tasting room aspect of it. You know, we've been fortunate that, like, I live downtown, and I go to some of the breweries out there quite often, and you know, we're busier than they are in my mind. Like, it's crazy. We all have half-hour lineups to get in sometimes. Like, it's across the street. Like, it's just nuts. So yeah, it's been great for us out here. I mean, we'll see if it continues. I mean, a lot of people come out here for the first time. It's how many people are going to come out the second time or third time, right? So it's been great for the local community, but yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes.
If somebody was wanting to go down this path themselves, what would be some advice you'd give them?
Honestly, get to know your local brewers. They're going to give you the best advice you can possibly get. I got a few guys that are opening up around town close to us right now. And, you know, I tell them, like, anytime you got a question, just shoot me an email. Like, they'll come in and, like, show me their plans for their brew house setup, and I'll give them any advice that I think they should do. And I got a friend actually in Niagara right now that used to live out here. He's opening a brewery. Same thing. Like, he sends me out, his plans and asks me questions about, like, how much did you pay for this? How much is this? How much is this? Kind of like putting his budget together, and like, how soon should I hire my brewer, stuff like that.
And you know Chinese characters now.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Brew house.
I can tell you what cold water looks like in Chinese characters. So yeah, that's great.
And so who's inspiring you to create the beers that you guys are creating
right now? You know, the guys that we emulate, a lot of American guys. You know, some of our favorites are Monkish and Trillium and Other Half and guys like that. There's also guys that we really like that are smaller, but, you know, like Structures down in Bellingham is one of the best breweries that I locally, within driving distance in my mind. They're incredible. And the guys at Holy Mountain, like, we're actually hoping in the next 6 months here to start a pretty serious barrel program. We're looking at buying about 200-300 barrels and a full new brew house, like small brew house, and just focusing on strictly barrel stuff at a different location. And we're pretty stoked about that. And, you know, it's guys like Holy Mountain putting out beers like they do, or Side Project or whatever, right? So those in our mind, those guys are the ones that are like, they're leaps beyond everybody else as far as beer quality and beer styles and creativity, right? So there's some really good guys in Canada too. I mean, Bellwood's out in Ontario is killing it right now. And we just did a collaboration with Dunham, and their wild stuff is next level. Yeah, so there's a lot of guys around North America that really inspire us for sure.
So with barrels, like, you know, do you want to get a fooder? Do you want to get a cool ship? Like,
yeah, we're looking at getting a couple of fooders, and we'll probably do 2 or 3 fooders just to kind of use for blending. And then we want to do a whole wild program, as well as a stout program, a couple barley wines, stuff like that. So yeah, we're pretty excited about that for sure.
All right. And if somebody was to make the journey out here for their first time, what would be something as an experience you'd want them to leave with?
Honestly, our biggest thing is converting IPA fans, or non-IPA fans. You know, like, we have a lot of people walk in here and be like, oh, you guys just serve IPAs? It's like, try them. You know, like, just give them a try. Like, there's a lot of people that still perceive IPAs as bitter beer. We don't do that. All of our hop additions are whirlpool or dry hop, right? So you're not getting a ton of that bitterness. And even though we have 5 different IPAs on, they all taste drastically different because they all use different hops, So it's really just showcasing what IPAs can be to a lot of people that are afraid to drink them right now. So that's our biggest thing is to come out and enjoy an IPA. Trust me, you will enjoy it.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Big thank you to Cody at Twin Sails. It was great to hang out with him. And a little update. Since I did that interview, which was a couple months ago, Space Armadillo is back. So if you are curious to try Space Armadillo, it is now available in cans from Twin Sails. All right, I'm going to walk down Brewers Row because it's such a lovely day. And it's just so nice that there are 4 great breweries all on the same street. And it's such a beautiful location that there's actually a lot more to explore in Port Moody as well. In fact, the BC Ale Trail has a great 2-day itinerary you can check out on their website. I actually used the BC Ale Trail while I was making this episode to find a great place for lunch. And it's not just Port Moody. The BC Ale Trail showcases many parts of the province. At bcaletrail.ca, you'll find recommended itineraries, a comprehensive list of every craft brewery in BC, a calendar of beer events, and a blog with lots of great stories. The regional ale trails include local breweries, pubs, and restaurants, along with outdoor activities in the supernatural landscapes that surround them. So whether you're planning a weekend trip or just being a tourist in your own backyard, let the BC Ale Trail guide you to your next beer adventure. Arrive thirsty, leave inspired at bcaletrail.ca. All right, I've arrived at my destination of the final brewery on Brewers Row, and that is Parkside Brewery. All right, your name?
Sam Payne.
And what is your role here?
My card says I'm the co-executive super president.
Right. That's an awesome title.
Thanks. Yeah, I make my own cards now, so I get to write whatever I want. It's fun.
All right. And your brewery is called Parkside. It's not too much of a stretch of the imagination of why that probably is the case, but maybe I'm wrong. Why are you called Parkside?
The Parkside Brewery is strictly, literally, because we're across the street from Rocky Point Park. We're beside Rocky Point Park, but Parkside's meant to be a little bit more literal too. It could be any park, anywhere, and just kind of a summary of the idea of being social and together, community-based.
I should really try and remain unbiased in this, but I think you guys got the best patio, probably the best patio in Metro Vancouver with your little grassy knoll out the front and everything. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah, so it's it's a park year round out here.
Yeah. There's a lot of good places to have a beer in BC, so it's nice to have people coming out often. Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you guys open?
June 8th, 2016.
Yeah, and so you're brewery number 4 on the street?
We're brewery number 4 in Port Moody, that's right.
Were you a little intimidated moving into a neighborhood with 3 guys already on the same street?
Not at all. We knew them pretty well, and I mean, Vern and Jeff, my business partners, they live out here, so they're really familiar with sort of the camaraderie out here and just the area. I worked out here a long time ago, so I was pretty familiar with Port Moody as well, and my experience in craft beer is that everybody's in it to get along and help each other, and then we literally have had that going on. We coined the area Brewers Row ourselves, the 4 breweries. And
do you have a petition in with the municipality to change the name of the street yet?
No, we like Murray Street. It's fine. It's great.
Right. Yeah, not Ale Maker's Way or something like
There's
that?
There's a lot of conversations that go on. I mean, the four owners, ownership groups, we get together all the time and have beers. We've got beers happening today, actually. Later today, we're going to sit down and sort of chat about some events that are coming up and things that are going on in the area. And we really just spend time promoting the area and figuring out how to get more and more people to Port Moody.
Yeah, and it's super easy now because that SkyTrain line's open to downtown. So
it's crazy easy. And I was a Vancouver guy for a long time, and although I worked in Port Moody and knew Port Moody, you don't really realize how close it is. I mean, it's 30 minutes to downtown, and I was living in South Vancouver, and sometimes it was 30 minutes to get home there.
Yeah.
So now I live just down the street from here, and wouldn't trade it for anything. Great community.
So how did beer find you?
Beer found me. I was finishing, it was a long time ago, goodness. I was finishing school at UBC, and I needed a bartending job to pay for it. So I was bartending and managing pubs around town. I ended up pouring drinks at the Aletown Brewing Company for quite a while and learning quite a bit about craft beer there. And I got pulled out from behind the bar to start my former business, and did that for a dozen years, and then got an opportunity to come here and work with Vern.
Right. And how did that all come together?
Vern Lamborn, I got a call from him one day, and I've known Vern for a long time, and he was friends with a lot of the brewers that I've been working with for a long time, and guys that I considered class acts and legends in the business. And it's funny because Vern called me, and although he and I had only ever had half a dozen conversations in our life, you get a call from a guy like Vern Lamborn, and you answer the phone, and Vern asked me if I knew a guy that wanted to talk about a thing, and I did, and he and I had lunch the next day, and that was where it all started.
Right. And so how long was that from that initial idea to planning stage to opening the door?
I left my old business November of 2015. He and I probably had that conversation. It's probably in September of 2015, I would think.
So that's a relatively quick turnaround.
It was relatively quick. I mean, it was a couple months, but it was time and the opportunity was great. And my old business side, we at the Red Truck Beer Company, we get along great still. I mean, we're dear friends. They were good to me. I was good to them, and it was just the right time. I think it was just great timing, and it wasn't an easy decision, but it was a decision I was happy to be able to make.
So was the initial idea to come to Port Moody or someplace else?
Vern had already had the piece of land, so it was basically, hey, here's the idea, here's what we have so far. We really want your opinion on it, but come see the space and come look around. So I thought about it and came out and looked at the space, and this was an old the building that we're sitting on now, or the place where we're sitting now was an old beat up warehouse. But I could picture what was good here and what was going to happen here, and yeah, that was about it. Came out and cleaned up the place and helped build the place, and we got open a few months later.
So you came into the company, and Vern had been working at Granville Island.
Vern had already left Granville Island. I'll let him talk about that. But I mean, he'd already left that business and basically had started was doing a bit of consulting and just kind of between ideas. I think there was some timing stuff about when he could get back into the industry and that kind of thing. But this presented itself, and it was about a year after he had left his old business, if I'm getting the timing right.
Mm-hmm. And so, what did he want to brew?
I think for the most part, whatever he wanted, right? I mean, I think that there were some styles that he really enjoyed making, some styles that he didn't, and ultimately, just the idea of freedom, not like. Nothing unlike, being a journalist or being in a lot of different parts of business. Sometimes you just want to do what you want when you want to do it and how you want to do it. And, just the opportunity to go out on our own. I think it's a lot of our dreams, right? So
what was your initial response when you tried your first batch of beer that you guys made here?
Oh, I skipped. I was so excited. It was Dusk Pale Ale. I remember it to this day. I took it out of the fermenter, and I was just so excited about how flavorful it was, and just drinkable it was, and light yet full body. It had everything that I wanted in the first beer, and I knew Vern was good, but we got to open up, and all of the first batches all hit the mark, and we were running right out of the gates. It was great.
So doors come open. Were you guys slammed that day?
We were. There's a video on our Instagram feed, and just a video. I've been obviously logging kind of everything that's been going on for a year and a half. I handle some of the social media stuff, and that day, the second we opened, we claimed we were going to open at 2 p.m. that day, and at 1:50 it started raining, and we had a lineup down the block. So we just said, "Hey, we're open," and I've got a nice video of just people just filling the room, and it was wonderful. Again, it's just another thumbs up for the community.
Did you run out of beer at any point?
Yeah, that's been a good juggle since we started. I mean, we got really lucky and got some new tanks right away, and we brought tanks in 3 times actually in the first year we've been open. That's that speaks to the number of seats that we have here, but also the popularity of the beer in the area.
And you guys have been packaging as well. Was that the initial idea too, or did you just want to sell?
Yeah, well, we wanted to pack it. We definitely had a plan to can a number of our beers. I mean, our core lineup when we opened was planned to be Dusk Pale Ale, Dawn Pilsner, and Graffiti IPA. And we've recently added Dimwit in cans full time as well. And we wanted to do cans. We think it really speaks to being social and responsible as well. I mean, nobody takes glass to the park and glass to the beach. Why would you? So that was a decision we made about canning our beers. And we got into the BC government channel mid-October in 2016. And quite a few cans on shelves now. It's good.
You have your own canning line back there?
We do. We have a cask canning line back there, and it's a beast that we love and battle with. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think you guys could do this brewery anywhere else besides Port Moody?
That's a fine question. I haven't really thought of it. I mean, this is really, the Parkside Brewery right now. That being said, like we talked about a bit ago, is we believe the concept and culture of Parkside can happen at any park and in any community. But we'll focus on this one. We'll focus on this one now. It's a year old, so we're happy here, right where we are.
All right. And who's inspiring you, like just in the local metro area, to probably brings something new to the table for you guys in terms of what you're making here.
There's great breweries everywhere. I mean, there's a lot of great breweries in BC. I mean, when I'm not drinking Parkside beer, I'm drinking something from Brewers Row, or I'm drinking Strange Fellows or Main Street or a lot of different good breweries, right? I mean, we've got a guest tap program, and we've got, everything from Four Winds, Persephone, Brass Neck, Strange Fellows, kind of going oftentimes. And that it's great to be able to celebrate the community, and have some new styles in-house all the time as well. As far as inspiration, I mean, we sit down a lot. I mean, we've been inspired by the business for a long time. So, I don't want to say we're inspired by ourselves. That sounds funny, but,
it's an inspiring spot that you guys are in. I mean, the mountains are just over the water there, and it's a nice, beautiful, sunny day. We're sitting out on your patio. I mean, I
think we're just excited. I mean, again, other people's excitement, I think that helps coming to work every day and seeing people come in and excited about grabbing a hat and having a beer and coming back, again and again, so that, and then because we're a year old, every beer we make is a new beer. So it's fun, and every brand that we release on that beer, it becomes fun as well. So, we're just inspired by, I guess, the industry, I think is probably the right answer there. Yeah.
Yeah. If somebody was to come here for the first time, what would be an experience you would want them to have here and leave with?
Well, the experience of just having a full sort of family-friendly brewery to visit. I mean, on any given day, we've got families and dogs and kids running around, and that's good fun too. But a park bench flight would probably be the beer experience I want them to have. I mean, we've got literal small park benches where you get 4 or 5 ounce tasting glasses, and you could sample, one of, at any given time we could have 4 to 10 beers going. So, yeah, I think a park bench flight or 2 perhaps.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Well, thanks.
Thank you once again to all 4 of the breweries now in 2 episodes here on the Cascadian Beer Podcast that took the time to sit down and chat with me. Really appreciate it. And you guys got to go check them out. It is so easy to get to Port Moody if you're coming from downtown Vancouver. Great connection with the SkyTrain. So yeah, it's really a no-brainer if you're looking for something to do on the weekend. And the beer is amazing. So do you really need more of an excuse to go? So I'm Aaron. This is the Cascadian Beer Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. And thanks to the BC Ale Trail for making this episode possible. If you want to hear more episodes, you can. Wherever you listen to podcasts, I'm more than likely there. So you can go back in time through the archive and let me know what your favorite episode is. You can reach out to me on social media by going to facebook.com/Cascadian Beer. I'm on Twitter @Cascadian Beer, and I'm on Instagram @Cascadian Beer Podcast. Thank you so much again for listening. Really do appreciate it. And until next time, remember, support your local.